Imagine walking through a world where flowers never wilt, where harvests happen endlessly, where the sun never sets on abundance. Sounds like paradise, doesn't it? But what if I told you that this eternal spring would actually be humanity's greatest nightmare? Today, we're diving deep into one of the most misunderstood stories in Greek mythology, the abduction of Persephone by Hades, and exploring a question that will completely change how you see this ancient tale. What if Hades had never taken Persephone to the underworld? Most people know the surface story. Hades, god of the underworld, falls in love with Persephone, daughter of Demeter, goddess of the harvest. He abducts her. Demeter grieves and refuses to let anything grow. Zeus intervenes, and they compromise. Persephone spends half the year in the underworld with Hades, creating winter, and half with her mother, bringing spring and summer. Simple, right? But here's what the ancients understood that we've forgotten. This wasn't just a love story or even a cautionary tale about abduction. This was a profound meditation on the necessity of death, loss, and cycles for life itself to have meaning. The world that never was, eternal spring's dark secret. Let's imagine for a moment that Hades never noticed that beautiful maiden picking flowers in the meadow. Persephone remains forever with her mother Demeter, and the earth continues in perpetual spring. At first glance, this seems wonderful. The ancient Greeks would have called this the golden age return. Endless abundance, no famine, no death from starvation, no winter hardships. But dig deeper, and you'll discover why this scenario would have been absolute horror. In a world of eternal spring, nothing would ever truly rest. Think about what winter actually provides. It's not just cold and dormancy, it's renewal. Seeds need the cold stratification of winter to germinate properly in spring. Soil needs time to replenish its nutrients. Trees need their period of dormancy to grow stronger root systems and prepare for explosive growth. Without winter's death-like sleep, plants would grow continuously until they exhausted themselves and the Earth's resources completely. But here's where it gets even more fascinating and darker. In this perpetual spring world, Persephone would never mature beyond the eternal maiden she was when we first meet her in the myth. She'd remain forever young, forever innocent, forever picking flowers in her mother's meadow. Sounds idyllic until you realize what that actually means. No growth, no wisdom gained through experience, no development into the powerful queen she becomes. She would be trapped in a kind of beautiful stagnation, never becoming who she was meant to be. The ancient Greeks understood something profound about human nature that we often forget today. Growth requires descent. Every hero's journey, every meaningful transformation, requires a trip to the underworld, literally or metaphorically. Persephone's abduction wasn't just about Hades' desire. It was about her necessary initiation into the deeper mysteries of existence, her transformation from innocent maiden to wise queen of both life and death. The wisdom of necessary endings. Here's what most retellings miss entirely. Demeter's grief wasn't just about losing her daughter. It was about refusing to accept the natural order of things. Demeter represents the mother who cannot let go, who would rather see the world stop functioning than accept that her child must grow up, must face darkness, must experience loss. Her creation of eternal winter when Persephone is taken isn't heroic maternal love. It's a cosmic temper tantrum that nearly destroys all life on Earth. In our hypothetical world where Hades never appears, Demeter gets exactly what she wants. Her daughter forever by her side, never changing, never growing, never leaving. But this apparent victory would be the ultimate tragedy. Without Persephone's journey to the underworld, without her acceptance of her dual role as queen of both spring growth and winter's necessary endings, the world would lack the wisdom that comes from integrating light and shadow, life and death, growth and rest. Consider what happens in nature when natural cycles are disrupted. In regions where winters have become too warm due to climate change, we see exactly this scenario playing out. Plants that don't get proper dormancy periods become weak and susceptible to disease, Invasive species take over because the cold that would normally kill them never comes, and entire ecosystems begin to collapse. The ancient Greeks, who lived so close to the rhythms of agriculture, understood intuitively that endless abundance leads to its own form of destruction. The queen who never was. But perhaps the most tragic loss in our alternative timeline would be Persephone herself. The maiden who never becomes queen, who never learns to rule over the realm of shadows, who never develops the profound wisdom that comes from understanding both creation and destruction. In the actual myth, Persephone's time in the underworld transforms her from a passive flower picker into one of the most powerful deities in the Greek pantheon. A goddess who can move between worlds, who understands both life and death intimately, who becomes wise enough to judge the souls of the dead. Think about the symbolism here. Persephone eating the pomegranate seeds isn't about being trapped by trickery, as many modern versions suggest. The pomegranate has always been a symbol of hidden knowledge, of secrets learned through experience. By eating those seeds, Persephone chooses transformation over innocence. She chooses to become someone who can hold both joy and sorrow, creation and destruction, spring's hope and winter's necessary rest. In our world without Hades' intervention, she never makes this choice. She never tastes the fruit of deep knowledge. She remains forever on the surface, beautiful and pure, but ultimately powerless to help humanity understand the deeper mysteries of existence. The queen of the underworld never comes into being, and with her, we lose one of mythology's most powerful symbols of transformation through ordeal: the seasons of the soul.
The Greeks didn't just see the seasons as weather patterns. They saw them as stages of spiritual development that every soul must experience. Spring represented innocence and new beginnings. Summer was the time of full flowering and achievement. Autumn brought the wisdom of maturity and the acceptance of decline, and winter offered the deep rest and contemplation necessary for renewal. Without this full cycle, human beings would be trapped in perpetual spiritual spring, always beginning, never maturing, never gaining the deep wisdom that comes from facing and accepting life's darker aspects.
In psychological terms, what we're really talking about is the necessity of experiencing and integrating our shadow selves. Carl Jung wrote extensively about how psychological health requires us to acknowledge and integrate the parts of ourselves we'd rather deny: our capacity for darkness, our own mortality, our need for periods of rest and reflection. Persephone's journey to the underworld is the ultimate symbol of this process, the descent into shadow that allows us to emerge with greater wisdom and power. Without this descent, without this acceptance of life's cycles, humanity would be stuck in what psychologists call spiritual bypassing, trying to remain always in the light, always positive, always growing, without ever integrating the profound lessons that come from sitting with darkness, loss, and the acceptance of endings. The gift of grief. Perhaps most importantly, in a world where Persephone never leaves her mother's side, humanity would never learn the transformative power of grief. Demeter's mourning, her refusal to let anything grow while her daughter is in the underworld, isn't just destructive, it's also sacred. It teaches us that some losses are so profound they deserve to stop the world, that grief is not something to be rushed through but honored as a necessary response to love. But equally important is what happens next. Demeter learns to let go. She learns that love sometimes means accepting separation, that holding too tightly destroys what we're trying to protect. When Persephone returns each spring, the reunion is made more precious precisely because it was preceded by loss. The joy of spring is magnified by the memory of winter's sorrow. In our alternative timeline, there would be no grief, but also no real joy. Just a flat, unchanging pleasantness that would eventually feel more like a prison than a paradise. The Greeks understood that emotions, like seasons, need their full range to create the rich tapestry of human experience. Conclusion: the beauty of broken cycles. So what would really happen if Hades never took Persephone? We'd have a world trapped in perpetual immaturity, beautiful on the surface but lacking the depth, wisdom, and resilience that come from experiencing life's full spectrum. We'd have eternal spring, but it would be the spring of a world that never learned to grow up. The abduction of Persephone, when understood in its full context, isn't a story about victimization. It's about the necessary disruptions that allow us to become who we're meant to be. It's about the wisdom that comes from descent, the strength that emerges from surviving darkness, and the profound joy that can only be experienced by those who have also known profound sorrow. The next time you experience your own metaphorical winter, a period of loss, challenge, or forced transformation, remember Persephone. Remember that these descents aren't punishments, but initiations, not endings, but necessary chapters in the story of becoming fully alive. If this deep dive into mythology's hidden wisdom resonated with you, please hit that like button to help more people discover these timeless truths. Share this video with someone who might need to hear that their own journey through darkness is sacred and necessary. And don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell. We've got so many more mythological mysteries waiting to be unraveled. Until next time, remember, sometimes the greatest gift is the one that first appears as loss.